your entire body with breath. And a very complete exhale, draw your belly button all the way back into your spine. On an inhale, fill your low belly, really push it out, mid belly, upper chest, shoulders a little bit more, full breath. And exhale, shoulders, mid belly, squeeze it out. Again, like that, inhale, low belly, push it out, mid belly, upper chest, shoulders even more at the top. And exhale, shoulders, mid belly, and empty. Take a few more breaths like this. When the breath is very full, you may notice your mind becomes very, very present. Or generally in our life, our mind is everywhere but here, in the past, in the future, judging what's happening now. So keep your breath very full. So you can be here, arrive here. And keep breathing deeply. I'm going to open with some mantra. Man means mind, tra means to free. The ancient sound vibration that helps to connect us to ourself beyond the mind. I'm honoring my teachers, praying for their grace, their presence, that I can share something of value with you. And you can also just pray that you can again receive what you need tonight. So keep breathing fully. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavairi Pashtatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Garadhaira Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. And go ahead and open your eyes. Welcome back. So my name is Diana, and it is such an honor and great blessing to get to be with you all tonight. Thank you so much for your interest in learning more about Ayurveda. Such a deep, vast well of wisdom that has the power to transform your life in so many beautiful ways. And so I'm very grateful to get to share it with you all. I was, a little bit about me before we dive into Ayurveda. I was born and raised on the path of Bhakti Yoga to a father he's an Ayurvedic practitioner. And so we live in Florida now, and my dad has a retreat center here that me and my sister grew up around. And it's amazing. I oftentimes joke that there were little things growing up that I felt were against my religion. Like I thought that I couldn't drink ice water because that was against my religion, or different like Ayurvedic things that were just instilled within me from such a young age. Yeah. And I mean, now looking back, it was just such a great blessing. People come from all over the world to this retreat center, and they stay for 3 days, 5 days, a month, and they come with all sorts of different ailments or dis-ease, whether it's dis-ease of the body, the mind, the heart, all sorts of maybe acute and chronic, or even really simple things. And growing up at the center, I would just see people heal. People heal. We are able to heal. We are able to come back to balance when we are provided with the proper environment. Our body leans into healing naturally when we can connect to nature's rhythms. And it's something that, again, I would see firsthand time and time again. And so Ayurveda wasn't so much something that I had to, really get faith in over time, but Ayurveda, it's really that I have had the faith from such a young age, right? And I know that the science, when applied, it really, really works. And so, of course, like most teenagers, I went through my wild, rebellious years where I didn't really want anything to do with yoga or Ayurveda, and I wanted to see what does this world have to offer. You know, what other pleasures are there that can bring me joy and happiness. And then I think we've probably all, a lot of us have been down that road, and we know that ultimately what we're really seeking is lasting happiness, a happiness that lasts beyond the ever changing relationships or ever changing circumstances or situations. And so in my very early 20s, I became very, very serious about the path of yoga and started more deeply studying Ayurveda. And um, it doesn't cease to amaze me. My sister often says that Ayurveda, it's so simple that a child can understand it, but so deep and so complex that we could spend our entire lives studying it and never fully grasp the wisdom that's there. And something else I really, really love about Ayurveda is that it's a practical science, which means that in order to experience it, we have to apply it. Yoga and Ayurveda are both like that. There can be so much theory and so much philosophy, but it just stays theory and philosophy until we begin to apply it into our life in a very practical way. And then we begin to see and feel how it will transform us. Um, and it's amazing. And so my vision and my mission is to really share Ayurveda in a way that is accessible, in a way that you can, just from today's workshop, you can begin to apply simple principles into your life that will lead to lasting transformation. And I oftentimes share that it's the simple things done consistently that make the biggest changes in our life. Oftentimes we think it's those really big things like I have to move out of the city, or I have to get out of this relationship. I have to do these really huge things in order to, you know, change our lives and be happy. But Ayurveda gives us such simple tools and techniques that can be applied immediately and that will bring you a more deep sense of happiness, fulfillment, and connection. And so I'm going to share a screen. Everybody just write in the chat, where in the world are you? I think we're coming from all over the world. Hi, Fran, good to see you. So Ayurveda, a life aligned. And so through this workshop, we're going to touch on what is Ayurveda. So what is Ayurveda anyways? It's become quite a buzzword. It's actually said to be one of the most popular health trends that I hope stays around forever because it's not just a fad, it's a deep way of living. But more and more people are getting to know about Ayurveda. We'll learn the definition of health according to Ayurveda. We'll hear about the doshas. Who here has heard that word dosha? Yeah, most people that have heard about Ayurveda, their first question is, what's my dosha? Who's here lately? It's like, what's my dosha? I want to figure out my dosha tonight. Okay, that may or may not happen. But you'll definitely understand what each one of the doshas is. And then we'll talk about prakriti and vikruti, which is each one of our unique physiological blueprints, and also the ways that we can go out of balance. Does that sound good? Okay. And so what is Ayurveda? So Ayurveda, it's a 5,000-year-old system of health that comes from India. And it's actually said that most other healing systems actually have their roots in Ayurveda. And actually, Ayurveda is said to be an eternal science. It was simply documented about 5,000 years ago. But as you learn more about Ayurveda, you'll understand what that means. But basically, it's that it's the study of matter. It's the study of our earth planet, these bodies that we live in, and all the elements that it's made up of. And so at the moment that matter existed, Ayurveda was there because Ayurveda was created simply by observing matter, observing the world that we live in, and seeing the patterns, seeing the rhythms, And that's how the medical system was created. And what's beautiful about Ayurveda, something that I love about it, actually, when I was studying Ayurveda and saw the definition of health, that's when, like, for the first time, I had within me this deep yes. Like, this is a perfect medical science, and I want to give my life to diving deeper into it and to sharing it. Because it's a holistic model of health, which means that it takes into account the whole person. Because I imagine you've had an experience before where maybe your body felt really, really good, but you were experiencing a lot of anxiety or fear in your mind. Has anybody had that experience before? You probably didn't feel healthy, right? You probably didn't feel vital and vibrant and amazing. In the same way, maybe we've had times in our life where our body feels really, really good, our mind feels very present and calm, but we don't feel connected to our deeper sense of purpose. Why am I here? What is my offering in this world? And even then, we don't feel that total perspective of health and connection and vitality. And so Ayurveda really acknowledges that we're not just these physical bodies. But who here has heard that voice in your head that's always saying something about everything? Who here has heard the mind before? Yeah, we all have this voice in our head that's, my sister says, saying something about everything and everything about something. If your mind, like maybe you're having a really, really good day, but all of a sudden this song comes on that reminds you of your last partner that really, really broke your heart. And all of a sudden your mind starts to feel very, very sad. Has anybody had an experience like that before? And then all of a sudden, like the energy that's moving in your body, your pranic body, according to Ayurveda, it's moving very differently. And so your mind affects your body. And then it's like all these layers are interacting with each other. Something happens to your body, it affects your mind. Something that happens to your mind affects your body. And so it's a holistic model of care that takes into account all of the aspects of who we are and understands that in order to be really healthy, all aspects of ourself have to be healthy. Because again, if there's one aspect that's not healthy, it's going to inevitably have an effect on the other. And so the definition of health is listed here on the right. And we'll just go through that. Samadosha means when all of the organizing energies in your body are balanced. Sama agnischa, when your digestive fire is balanced. And not only your ability to digest your food, but also your ability to digest and process and grow from your life experiences. Samadhatu, when all of the tissues in your body are balanced. Mala kriyaha, and when you're excreting your wastes properly. So when you're pooping, peeing, and sweating effectively. That sounds pretty good, right? That sounds like good health. When the organizing energies are balanced, when your digestive fire is strong, when all of your tissues are balanced, and when you're excreting your waste properly. Then this is the part that I really, really loved. Prasanna Atma, Indriya Manaha. When your soul, your senses, and your mind are blissful. Svasta iti avidyate. That is perfect health. That's beautiful, right? That's beautiful. Okay, so Ayus means life. Veda means science. And so loosely translated Ayurveda, it's the science of life. It's the science of understanding this life. And Ayurveda says that there are 4 components of life. There's the senses, the mind, the body, and the soul. The senses, the mind, the body, and the soul. And so again, we want to take into account the health of all of these different aspects in order to come to a place of feeling perfect health. There's a story in the Upanishads, one of India's great ancient texts, that tells of a woman who just bought the most beautiful bird cage. And so it's like this gold-plated bird cage with the most amazing rubies and diamonds and precious gems and stones. And every day she spends so much time caring for this bird cage. One day she's like, I have to throw a party so all of my friends can see this bird cage. And so she has all of her friends over, and they're all just standing around this cage, just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. How did you find this? How are you taking care of it? This is like, wow, I want a bird cage just like this too. Then one of her friends, she looks a little bit confused and she's looking at the bird cage and she's like, I mean, the cage is beautiful, but your bird is dead. And the story goes on to really share the deeper meaning is that so often in this life, we're focused on the external things, really trying to build that perfect house with a white picket fence and the most amazing business, our offerings, the biggest Instagram followings, thinking that when all of this is set up, then I'll be happy, then I'll be satisfied, then my life will be great. You know, it's like, wow, it's so interesting. It's something I'm realizing more and more is like those parts of ourselves that we try to hide. When we share them, we realize even though we're all so individual, we have so much in common. We all go through so many of the same things internally. And so often it's like we're trying to build the perfect external environment as well as the perfect body, but we're neglecting the soul, who we really are. Yoga and Ayurveda. Who here has heard that yoga and Ayurveda are sister sciences? What does that even mean? So what that means is that they're meant to be practiced together. They're meant to be practiced together. Whereas yoga, it's not just a set of physical exercises, it's actually a path and a process that awakens you to the reality of your soul, who you really are, beyond your body, beyond your mind. Where Ayurveda, it's the study of matter, this world that we live in, this body that we have. Even Einstein says, though, matter, it's never created nor destroyed, but it's always changing, right? And so this cup that I have, it's made up of matter. This camera, the seat that I'm sitting on, even the air, if everybody can just go like this, can you feel it? It actually has density. Even though like we're moving through it all day, if this were water, you'd actually be able to see waves. You'd actually be able to feel it. But in the same way, air, it's a much more subtle element, but there's density there. So in the same way, this cup, this chair, the air, everything around me is made up of matter. This body too is made up of the same elements, matter. But there's something inside of this lump of matter that's different than this, right? And what is that? That's what Yoga and Ayurveda say. That is the soul. That is who you really are. You're consciousness that animates form. This is a whole other talk that we're not going to go deeply into right now. But I bring it up because actually what Ayurveda says is because I and you, it's like you are the one who's seeing through those eyes. You are the one that's hearing through the ears. You are not your eyes or ears or body or mind. You are the one who's seeing. But Ayurveda says, because I live in a body that's made up of matter, because I live in a world that's made up of matter, it's basically, I'm swimming in matter. I'm completely encased in matter. I begin to think that I am matter. I begin to identify with my body. I begin to identify with the roles that I'm playing, the positions that I have, the amount of money, the success, the failures. I start to identify with all of these external things, right? And so Ayurveda, this is profound actually. It says the root cause of all disease is that I've forgotten who I really am. I've forgotten who I really am. And because I've forgotten who I really am, I don't know how to act. So I give an example that maybe some of you can relate to. I go for that third bowl of ice cream, even though I know I'm not going to feel good afterwards. Who's ever done something along those lines? Yeah. It's like, so we do things that like we want to taste something now. We want to see something, hear something, smell something. We want something now, even though we know it's not good for us in the long run. Because we want it now, we ignore it. We ignore it because we just want to enjoy our senses. or I avoid things that are good for me just because I don't feel like it. Like, who here has ever gone to a yoga class and been like, oh, I really shouldn't have done that? Probably none of us. It's like, it's usually hard to get there, but once you're there and after the class, you're like, oh, that was the best decision I've ever made. But for some reason, we avoid these things just because we don't feel like it right now. And so Ayurveda says, because I've forgotten who I am, I have raga and vesha, attachment and aversion, likes, dislikes, things I move towards, things I move away from, thinking that it'll lead me towards lasting happiness. Oh, just one more piece of pizza. Like, oh, just one, 1,000 more followers, just a little bit more money. It's like something out there has to be the way that I want it to be. Then I'll be happy. But what Ayurveda says is what we're actually seeking is Ananda Mayobhyasat, which is the happiness that is inherent within the truth of who you really are. It's one of the qualities of the soul. And when you study yoga more deeply, you'll understand there's three main qualities that as you awaken to the nature of yourself, you begin to experience this Ananda. It's so that this happiness that is inherent within who you really are is Anandam Buddhivardhanam, which means it's not caused by anything. It's not because I got the raise, or because he looked at me a certain way, or because it's sunny outside and I have a picnic planned, I'm happy. Where oftentimes, like if I'm really real with myself, so much of my experience of happiness, it's because the world outside of me is the way that I want it to be, so I'm happy. Which means that as soon as it's not that way, and that's the nature of matter, it's always changing, it's not going to stay the same. As soon as it's not that way, I'm going to suffer. And so the Ananda that is inherent within your soul is Anandam Buddhivardhanam, which means it's not caused by anything, which means it can't be interrupted, as everything inevitably changes. And so again, yoga, it's the study of the spirit. Ayurveda, it's the study of matter, really understanding what brings about dis-ease, what brings about discord or dissonance, and what brings about balance, which again doesn't mean like I'm just physically healthy. It means no, you feel incredible, like you're happy, your body is vibrant, you're thriving. All aspects of your life reflect that, your relationships, your purpose, your career. And so it's not just like Ayurveda as a study of how do I become healthy, it's how do I become so deeply situated within myself that I'm connected to a happiness that is not caused by anything and can't be interrupted as the world inevitably changes. And the word for Ayurveda, this is just so beautiful. The word for health in Ayurveda is svasta, which literally translates into being situated in yourself, being situated within the truth of who you really are. And then it's deep, because then even one day, inevitably, if we just go back to this definition of health, one day when the doshas or the organizing energies aren't balanced, and your digestive fire is not balanced, and your tissues are not balanced, and you're not excreting your waste properly, like it's like from the moment that we come into this world, it's inevitable that one day the soul will leave this matter, this form. But even at the moment of death, we can still be svasta. Again, so deeply situated within the truth of who we are that we're not even swayed by any of it. And so, yes, it's a medical system, but the main word that we want to focus on, it's a holistic system of health that takes into account every aspect of who you are and every single aspect of your life, and strives to really harmonize all of these aspects so that you can show up in your life in a way that is deeply meaningful, deeply satisfying, and deeply serves. And this is really what Ayurveda will support you in. All right, so about 5,000 years ago, there's a little yogi. They call them rishis. Rishi means a seer. That was simply sitting and observing nature. And these beings, they saw that all matter. So again, every matter is basically everything that you can see, touch, taste, smell, hear. That's how you can categorize or organize what is matter, what is material energy. Anything that you can perceive through your senses is matter. And so he saw that all matter is made up of these 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. And again, because this body, this lump of matter, it's made of the same elements as the world outside. We are a part of nature. Our bodies are a part of nature. So by observing the natural rhythms and what happens in nature, we can really see how do we care for ourselves so that we can also be in harmony or be balanced or be healthy, vital, whatever word you want to use. By observing nature's rhythms, we can harmonize with nature because, again, we are not separate from nature. We are a part of nature. So even just for example, where do we see the earth element in our bodies? Anything that is dense or more stable, like the bones and the muscles. And then we see the earth element outside, and the same thing, you see it, the dirt, but also any density, anything that has more density. Water we see in our body, any liquids, and so this can be urine, sweat, blood, and you have the liquids that are in all of the orifices in our body, our nose, our mouth, our ears, our eyes. You can see the water there. Then of course, outside in nature, we see that same water element in the rivers, as the rain falls, the lakes, and the ocean. The fire element in our body, can anybody guess where the fire is? There's quite a few places. The main place that there's fire is in our digestive system. The acid in our stomach is actually so hot that if it were on your desk or on the ground, it would burn a hole through the desk or the ground. And so it's so hot, but also the fire regulates our body temperature. It's responsible for the color in our skin, the color of our eyes. And of course, we see fire externally in the sun, in the fire element, the heat that's created there. The air element inside of our body, it's of course the breath. It's one of the main ways we can experience the air, but also all of the movement. Air is responsible for movement. And so the movement that moves your food through your GI tract, the movement of the nerve impulses in your body, the movement of your blood as it circulates around. So that's the air element that's moving everything. And then all around us, we know that the air, you can't see it, but you can feel it. And you can also see air based on what it moves through. Again, air can really carry things. Like all of a sudden you can get a whiff of a strong smell because the air carries sense. The air carries matter, more dense matter. Then the space element within our body. It's really any place in our body where there is empty space. And so inside each alveoli in our lung, there's empty space that can fill with breath. Our entire GI tract, there's actually space that the food can move through, that anything can move through. It's actually said that a huge percentage of every cell is simply empty space, which is pretty far out. It actually shows that most of our body is actually empty space, but that's just a whole far out quantum physics type of thing that I don't actually know enough to go into. But there's a lot of space in our body. And so we can see these elements in our body that make up our physical form. And then we can also see these same exact elements in the world around us that make up all matter, all things material, combination of these 5 elements. And so each one of you, each person in the world has a very unique combination, like a physiological blueprint of these 5 elements in their body. It's completely unique to you. It's actually pretty far out because it said that at the moment of conception based on your mother and father's health or dis-ease. At the moment of conception, your prakriti or your blueprint for health was created. That's why I just wrote a book called Ayurveda Mama, and there's so much that goes into preparing for conception because it understands that at that moment it really creates a blueprint for the rest of your life. And so each one of you has a certain amount of earth, a certain amount of water, a certain amount of fire, a certain amount of air, and a certain amount of space inside of you. That is a completely unique combination. And that's where we come up with the doshas. And so the doshas, the easiest way that I have found to understand the doshas is that the doshas are simply a bundle of qualities. So for example, when you think of the element, space and air, those two elements, do you think heavy or light? Light, yeah. Do you think moist or dry? Dry. Do you think still or mobile? Yeah, mobile because the wind is moving. And so vata dosha means that if you have an excess of vata, if you have too much space and air, you're going to be light, which could show up in your mind like anxiety, fear, overwhelm, being very scattered. There's dryness, which can show up as dryness in your skin, but also maybe dryness in your colon, which leads to bloating, gas, constipation, if you have too much of the air and space element. So it's dry, light, mobile, so it's always moving. It's rough, and so there's that rough quality, whether it's with your skin or with your bowel movements or even in your interactions. And so if you think of the doshas as simply a bundle of qualities, when you think of kapha, do you think heavy or light? Water and earth. They're heavy, yeah, they're the more dense qualities. Do you think moist or dry? Moist, because wherever there's water, there's that moistness. And so if you have a lot of kapha in your constitution, you're going to tend to be a little bit heavier. If there's too much kapha, it'll lean into depression, lethargy, fogginess, disconnection, maybe too much moistness, so too much saliva, or even water retention. And so if you just look at the elements and think of what are the qualities that I can come up with when I think of space and air, that's vata dosha. When I think of fire and water, that's pitta dosha. When I think water and earth, that's kapha dosha. And so each one of us, again, because we all have 5 elements that we're made up of, every single one of us has all 5 elements. That means every single one of us has all 3 doshas. You have vata, you have pitta, and you have kapha. But at the moment of conception, you have what is called prakriti, which is your ideal state of health. So maybe, say, for example, like for me, I'm predominantly pitta. Say I'm like 70% pitta. I'm 20% vata, and I'm 10% kapha. So when I'm really, really healthy, I know that I want to get back. It's not like I want all of them to be the same exact amount. And that's a question people oftentimes have. Like, to be healthy, does it mean that you have to have 33.33% vata, pitta, and kapha? No. Your blueprint for health is going back to your prakriti, or at the moment of conception, what was that blueprint? 70% vata, 20% this, 10% that. And each one of us has a different percentage of each. There's so many questionnaires. Who here has done a questionnaire online before? And maybe it left you a little more confused than before, because if you do 2 of them, they're likely to be very different. Yeah, and so they're fun. They kind of can give you like an overall sense of things, but the best way to actually have an accurate perception is to go see an Ayurvedic practitioner or an Ayurveda counselor. There's 8 ways to diagnose. They can look at your nails, see your skin, look at your eyes, your tongue, check your pulse, ask you about your poop. And so there's many different ways that they'll be able to assess you and then tell you for sure what is your prakriti or your blueprint that you always want to move towards. And then there's what you call vikruti. which means your state of imbalance. Dosha actually means, I actually wanted to go to this next page. Dosha actually means, like, actually defined, it means at fault. Because our doshas change all the time. You know, say that my ideal state of health is pitta vata and then kapha. But if I go somewhere, because pitta is mostly fire, if I go somewhere that's really, really hot and have a burrito with extra hot sauce after taking a Bikram yoga class, I'm going to be even hotter, right? Which means like I am affected by my environment. So everything that I see, touch, taste, smell, and hear is affecting my doshas. You know, or if maybe I go somewhere, if vata is very cold and dry, if I go somewhere, oh my God, like an airplane, and the airplane is like the epitome of vata dosha because it's very, very cold, it's very, very dry, it's very, very light because you're high up in the sky, it's very, very mobile, you're moving a lot. Who here after flying has ever had insomnia or constipation? Yeah, or a little bit of anxiety or fear, or just felt disconnected or ungrounded. These are all symptoms of excess air and ether elements. And so if you associate, which means if you see something, smell something, hear something, taste something, if anything comes in through your senses that is more vata, then you are going to be affected and your vata will increase. Or same way, if you have more fire and you're around people that are really fiery, it's going to light your fire even more. Or if you're feeling really heavy, dull, depressed, lethargic, and you have macaroni and cheese and you just lay in bed all day, it's like, is that going to help you feel balanced? No, it's going to make you even more heavy, more dull, more lethargic. And so here's the simple equation that if you're going to remember one thing from this workshop, it's this. This is the equation that Ayurvedic doctors will use to balance something as simple as dry skin or bloating, all the way to the acute or chronic phases of dis-ease. This simple equation. Like increases like, and opposites balance. Like increases like, and opposites balance. So what does that even mean? And it's really as simple as this. And again, this is why my sister says it's so simple that even a child can understand it, but so deep and so complex that you can cure deep-seated cancer from this equation. Again, chronic and acute conditions can be healed with this equation. So again, it's the simple things done consistently that will make a difference. So simply put, what does this mean? If you're cold and you drink cold water, you're going to get colder. Yeah. Yeah. Or if you're cold and you drink warm water, it's going to balance you out. So opposites create balance. And so, for example, if you're struggling with anxiety, fear, overwhelm, scatteredness, ungrounded, that's the vata energy, that air and ether energy. And so if the quality is light, dry, rough, we'll just use those three. The way to counter that is by bringing in heavy, moist, smooth. This is in your diet and this is in your lifestyle. And so you notice, and even if you didn't know the doshas, Ayurveda, it's so profound because really more than anything, it's teaching us the art of how to pay attention to what is actually going on in our body and in our mind right now. What is going on right now? And based on what's going on right now, what do I need? What do I need to balance me out? Or again, so often, going back to the beginning of class, so often, it's all about what do I want? What do I want? Because who here has ever woken up in the morning? Maybe you felt like a little bit dry. You felt pretty awake. You felt a little bit anxious or fearful just because you had a big day ahead. You thought like, God, maybe I shouldn't have that cup of coffee because I know it's going to make me a little bit even more ungrounded or restless or make my mind even more active. But I really want it. I really, really want it. You know, it's like, again, it's that idea that like, I know I shouldn't, because we know, like, that's what Ayurveda teaches us, is how to be able to observe the small signs of imbalance, you know, by looking at your poop in the morning. Sorry to talk about that, but if you study deeper with me, we'll talk a lot about poop because it can be very, very telling. To really notice and observe, like, what is my state of mind? To notice, like, how often does anybody just like, they burp a lot and they just think, oh, I just burp a lot. It's like, no, Ayurveda is telling you that in your ideal state of health, when you're healthy, there aren't these simple signs and symptoms of dis-ease. And so if you're burping a lot or farting a lot, or if you have loose stool, or if you're experiencing anxiety or fear or depression or lethargy, it's your body, the wisdom in your body telling you, hey, there's something that's out of alignment. There's some way that you're living out of rhythm. And then Ayurveda gives us the tools, the technique, the knowledge, but also the wisdom of how to come back. And it's a moment to moment to moment practice that as you begin this journey of Ayurveda, again, you'll just start to see. I had a teacher that said, when you really begin to live Ayurveda, everything you see is through the lens of Vata, Pitta, Kapha, Vata, Pitta, Kapha, because you see things that will clearly balance you. And you also know the things that will pull you out. And so Ayurveda, it's really that journey into cultivating the knowledge, but also wisdom, which the difference between knowledge and wisdom is knowledge is information, where wisdom, it's after you apply that information, you have a lived experience. So beginning to live that knowledge so that you can show up in your life in a way that actually satisfies, not just the temporary satisfaction of my tongue just wants to taste something, my ears just want to hear something, my body just wants to feel something, but actually, what do I actually need in order to experience that lasting happiness that I'm actually looking for, And so this is the intro to Ayurveda, giving you an understanding of what is Ayurveda, the definition of health, and really the core concepts of the 5 elements, the 3 doshas, and then I always forget that word, the equation of coming back into a state of health. And so I would love to open up for questions. If anybody has any questions, or even better, I don't know, better, maybe just different. I love hearing reflections, like something that you learned or you received that you appreciated, that you loved, because you repeating it can also help us learn it again. Please unmute.
I have a question.
Kristen.
You know, you talk about awareness about what we need versus what we want. Is there any, I feel like sometimes we get really in habits of not listening to ourselves. Is there anything any advice that you give around learning how to pay closer attention to what we need versus what we want?
For some reason, I can't hear you. I wonder if I have to, I don't know if it's my computer. Let me put my earphones in. Okay, go ahead and try again.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. You know, one of the points that you brought up about paying attention to ourselves and what we need versus what we want, I feel that we can be really good, or it become such a habit to not listening to ourselves and listening to everything else. Is there a way to start to transition into that more, where we do pay more attention to what we need versus what we want, like where we actually hear what our body is saying to us.
Totally. Yeah. And I think that is the process of Ayurveda. It's once we have the knowledge of what we actually need. Because
Okay.
I think, like you said, we've been so conditioned to think we need certain things. Though there is that felt experience, like if it's something like gross, like eating 3 bowls of ice cream, to check in, how do you feel afterwards? And so when you drop in and you pay attention rather than just like go, 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 where we're so often in that mode of doing and going, when you drop in and how do I feel? Do I feel more connected to myself? Do I feel more centered, more happy, more peaceful? Or do I feel more disconnected, more frenetic, more heavy, lethargic? And so do I feel balanced or do I feel unbalanced?
Yeah,
Um,
I think that's helpful. Not only not listening to ourselves, we're so conditioned. I feel like too, especially with health lately, there's so many opinions on good health that they've taken over in a way that we stop listening to our bodies and start listening
totally.
to all the experts that you should do this, you shouldn't do that,
Totally.
this is
Yeah.
good, this is bad. And
Yeah. That's why I love Ayurveda, because again, it has to be a felt experience, and when applied, you will start to notice those changes in your body or changes in your mind. And I think just, yeah, diving deeper into the 3 doshas, really understanding when this dosha is out of balance, what are the signs and symptoms? Because then you know what to look for.
right.
Without that knowledge, I didn't even know what to look for. Like I thought that it was normal to feel bloated after eating. It's like, and it could be like that. Or I thought that people always felt a little bit of anxiety. I thought that people always felt, it's normal because it's been normal for me for my entire life. Like, oh, that's a sign or symptom of imbalance. And so
Sure.
that's where knowledge can really come in, because it allows us to be able to see with more clear eyes. Yeah, it's not based on my condition, my past experience, but really based on truth, based on what's real.
Perfect.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Kristen. Yeah. Any other questions? All right. So I talked to my husband right before I came on today, and we decided that we wanted to offer you a special gift. 2 things, actually. One is, some of you may know that I have a 3 series course coming up in Ayurveda. And in this, it's a 2-week journey. It's 3 different classes with me. We really dive into the specifics of each dosha. Again, understanding the imbalances, understanding ways to come back into balance. Likely, you'll be able to know, like, oh, yeah, I'm definitely Pitta, I'm definitely Vata, I'm definitely Kapha. But more than anything, you'll be able to support yourself, your family, your clients, your friends, and being able to see those imbalances, and you'll have the wisdom, the tools, the techniques to come back into your ideal state of health. We also go into Ayurvedic self-care, sense care, then also really diving into Ayurvedic psychology, Ayurveda and the mind. And so the course, it's usually $300, but for you all, we wanted to give it to you for $100, and so $200 off of that. And so that's one of the gifts we wanted to offer for you if you do feel inspired or excited to keep learning. And then we decided we're also doing a spring cleanse, and we're like, okay, let's actually, if they sign up for the 2-week course, we'll just let you do the cleanse for free with us, because it's during those 2 weeks. We just thought that what a transformational experience that would be. The cleanse, it's usually $65, but you can get the whole course plus the cleanse, the community, all the details, the packets, for just $100. And I'll send you an email this afternoon with a link to sign up, and the promo code that's just for you all. And yeah, I'll just be so excited to dive deeper. And then the second thing, some of you may know, we have a 100-hour Ayurveda training that's really created to transform your life, transform your relationships, basically bring about that state of health that we talked about in the beginning. It's called Living Ayurveda. And so it's a 5-week journey where me and my husband both, as well as my dad will teach some, my sister will teach some. Um, it's a beautiful journey to transform your life applying those principles of Ayurveda. And we're not exactly sure yet. We want to give it as a gift to you in some way. But we thought if you're interested, let's hop on a call and let's make sure that it's something that you feel really inspired to do, that it's something that actually will meet all of your needs and what you're hoping for in your life, your professional career, your whatever it is that you're going through. So I'm actually going to share this page so that if any of you do want to, me and my husband, we're going to be offering just like free mini consultations over the next 2 weeks for you guys. And so here's all of our info. If you do want a free mini consultation, if you're struggling with anything in your life, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, relational, and want to see how Ayurveda can support you or how we can support you best, send me an email, dianamasla@gmail.com. And either me or my husband will get back to you and schedule a time to connect over the next 2 weeks. This is my Instagram. I share almost daily. I try to share when I'm inspired. We all know that realm of social media and how it can be a little all-consuming. And so I try to share things that can be supportive and helpful for your health. My new book is called Ayurveda Mama. It can be found on Amazon. And then my website is thesisterscience.com, and there you can find all of our offerings. And so it is almost 7. I'll be sending you a follow-up email with a link, a promo code, as well as, you can just respond to that email even to schedule the appointment. And I really, really hope to connect with most of you on the phone. It'll be really, really amazing to see how I can
Hey,
support you.
Deanna.
Yeah, Michael?
Hey, did you
Michael,
write?
is this
Is that?
Michael
Yeah,
laughter?
I'm right around the
Hi.
corner.
Hey.
I can almost hear you through the window. Um, did you write this book?
Yeah, I did.
That's awesome. I didn't know
Thanks
you were
so
writing a book.
much.
I know your father's
Yeah.
writing one. Is his out yet?
His isn't out yet. No.
Okay. Okay. I just wanted to ask that because you said I wrote this book, and I'm like, wow, I didn't know you wrote it. That's great.
Thank you so much.
The Bulletproof Coffee guy wrote a book called The Better Baby Book, and he talks about preconception a lot in that book.
Yeah, it's super important. It's really,
Totally.
really important. So yeah, whether you're just interested in learning more about that process, Ayurveda Mama is all about preconception, conception, pregnancy, postpartum, and also the life of a newborn mama. Some of you know I had a baby a year and a half ago, and I wrote the book during the first year of his life, and just felt like it was information that it's not widely out there, but it's so, so, so important. And
Very
so
nice.
thanks so much, Michael. I really appreciate that. All right, beautiful people. I can't wait to serve you more. And I pray that this was somehow helpful or inspiring or whatever it was for you. I hope that you feel nourished by it. Thank you so much for spending your evening with me. There's so many other places you could be right now. I'm honored to get to be in this space with you. And I really look forward to connecting. So please send me an email now. Don't feel like you're a burden or you can't take my time. If you have that impulse, just send me an email now and either me or my husband will get back to you. Sending so much love. Have a beautiful evening. May we all move towards deeper and deeper health, deeper and deeper happiness.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dana. Good night, everybody.
Thank you, Diana.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Diana.